Hey everyone, it's Richard Cannell here from Small Island Gardener, and on today's episode I'm going to show you how to perennialize a pepper. See, peppers, although we grow them as an annual here in the northern region, it is a perennial and will live for many years and produce even better the second year and then the third year. Some people say that peppers produce best until about 5 years, and I still have yet to figure that out for myself. So today I would like to show you exactly what needs to be done to a pepper to bring it to a stage where it will survive the winter and thrive the next year. The plant that I'm going to be demonstrating this with is an Ahi Fantasy. This plant makes such delicious peppers. They look totally unique. They're yellow, they're oddly shaped, and they're super duper sweet. And if you see this one here, it grew really tall and gangly. And this one here is actually 2 years old now. If you look here, the stem naturally divided into 2 main stems, which actually is not ideal. However, it's the way it was, and I kept it that way. And you could see here where it then turned into, I guess, 2 and 4 new stems. And so I cut these off right here last year, and then through this central area over here, it sent out a whole bunch of new sprouts and branches. And I don't really like the shape of it. It grew way too big, and it required a lot of support. So this year I'm going to cut it down much lower and see how it goes. Okay, so I'm in a more comfortable position to do this now. And before I begin, I guess step 1 is to make sure that all of the peppers are gone, because you can eat them. They're delicious. So save them. And some of them have gone rotten. I waited a little bit too long to do this job because I had a lot of other projects on the go. So unfortunately, it's a little bit late to do this, but definitely not too late. The plant looks very healthy. It does have quite a few leaves on it. And even if all the leaves did fall off, it's very likely that it would still send up some new sprouts from the nodes. So I'm just gonna go ahead and finish this. Take all the good ones and move on from there. Okay, this one's okay too. Oh, here's another. All right, there we go. So now that I'm here, it's really not that difficult in theory. However, emotionally and mentally, it is really difficult to really cut back your pepper. I'm not talking about a branch up here. I'm not talking about over here. I am going to go all the way down here. Before I do, I would just like to take a look and see if there is already some node growth here. And it looks like there is. Right here, there's actually a little bit of growth. And over here, there's definitely some growth, and there is as well. This is going to work very well. Okay, here we go. Look at that. Big branch. Gone. Huh. Now for the other side. Here's another thing to consider. The winter is long. The winter is cold. It's unpredictable. So I'm not really sure how much of this plant is going to make it. I'm cutting over here, but there is still a chance that some disease can kick in and it might naturally rot or become infected with something and go down a whole node, maybe 2, maybe 3. I've never had it go down 3 before, but I've definitely had some rot travel down 1 or 2 nodes. So you should take that into consideration. After all, right now it is only the end of October, and this plant has to survive until like May. Now I'm going to find a place to cut on the other side. Right here looks good. All right, done. As you can see here, the plant is really small now. So it does have a little bit of growth right here. I'm most likely going to chop this off because I don't want the plant to think that that's where the new branch should be. Because in reality, I'm going to want the plant to start growing from the nodes either here, 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 possibly there. The lower to the ground, the better, honestly. If it starts from way high up here, it's just going to be a taller, more gangly plant, and that's unnecessary. Short and stout is totally ideal when it comes to pepper plants. There's just less to manage, less risk of the wind causing damage, which is a huge bonus for some people in their regions. So you'll notice that when you look here, right there where my thumbnail is pointing, that is a tiny growth node, and that can grow into a whole new branch, a big branch, next year. So that's an option. There's also the possibility that it'll grow through that tiny little node right there. You can see there's something alive there. And I think you get the point. This happens at all of the areas where a branch used to grow or where it could have grown. So those are where I want next year's branches to come from. So that's why I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of these. Now, you might be wondering, there goes all the leaves. Is this going to be healthy for the plant? And the answer is no, it's not healthy for the plant. However, it's a strong plant and it will survive. It's not easy to do this. In reality, there is the chance that the plant might die. And it has happened to me before. Out of about 20 plants last year, it did happen to one pepper variety. So I planted a seed. It wasn't the end of the world. It was the end of the world for that plant, but not for me as a farmer. So there we have it. It looks so ugly. It is just 2 sticks. But as you can see, there's some growth here, there is some growth here. And there's some growth there. Yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that this plant is going to bounce back without failure. As you can see, that was not the only pepper plant in the greenhouse. See, I really enjoy peppers, especially that ahi charapita. Look at that, loaded with fruits. There's a few thousand on there for sure. There are even more pepper plants outside, and there's a lot of them that I want to save. So there's something else that you can do, which makes it a little bit more risky, but well worth it, and it will allow for me to save even more pepper plants in the greenhouse. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the plant out of here, and I'm going to put it into a much smaller pot. Actually, I'm not going to do that with this Ahi Fantasy. I will do it with another one. That pepper plant right there barely produced anything this year. It is a first year, and it just suffered in a few ways in the springtime that made it so it didn't produce much at all. So what I'm going to do is I will use this as the example, and I will dig it up and put it into a smaller pot. Okay, so the plant I had just told you I was going to put into a smaller pot. Okay, well I'm going to have to show you another one because I just recorded the whole segment without my microphone plugged into the camera. So it is audioless quality, and I'm just going to start from scratch with another one that is totally identical. Again, this is a 1-year-old plant, and it did not do very well at all this year. A lot of my peppers suffered this year for reasons unknown. I think it has to do with the extreme weather changes that were experienced at the beginning of the season. So I'm just going to go ahead and snip this. Can you guess what pepper that is from looking at it? It's Mad Hatter. It's one of the tastiest varieties out there. It's not spicy. Sometimes they can be a tiny bit spicy, but really they're more of a sweet pepper than anything else. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to take this plant, I'm going to dig it out, and I'm going to put it into this 1-liter pot. It's not a large pot at all, but it's going to be just enough so that I can take care of it this winter, and it won't be a problem. See, I find with these 5 or 7 gallon pots, I find that they can often dry up or they can get too waterlogged, and it's just a bit more of a hassle to take care of something like this when I could instead take care of a pepper in a 1-liter pot, and it doesn't require very much water or care, and there's a little bit less risk. So this one has a nice root system. I'm just going to go ahead and cut a lot of this away because pepper plants, unlike many different kinds of plants, they actually enjoy having their roots clipped. or ruffled with. They just don't seem to mind. In fact, I really think that they like it. It seems that they are quite stimulated afterwards. So that's not a problem at all. I'm just going to go ahead and put this right there. And now I'm going to start to fill this pot up with some soil. Don't need that leaf, don't need that root. Good idea to pack it down a bit. Now be sure, when you put the pepper into the pot with some new soil at the bottom, that there's room left on the top so that it can be watered efficiently. See, this is too high. There's no room for me to water, so it's going to be a major hassle if I don't do something about it. So I'm going to go ahead and take out about an inch, inch and a half, whatever it takes, so that, beautiful. All right, you see now there's about that much room all the way across. And that's all there is to it. See, I'm going to poke down around the edges, make sure there's no gaps where there's air. Ruffle it a little bit. There's some roots here on the top. I'm just going to actually make sure that they're covered. And that's it. You know, I sort of in a rush cut off the top of the plant just so I can get to this portion of the video. But now I can maybe handle this a little bit more scientifically. There's a node here, 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 here. This is just too tall, and there's no way I'm going to want the node on the top to create the new branch. It'll just be too lanky. Ideally, I would want this one or this one. So if this is the first, second, third, I'd say the third. And oh, there's a fourth, I couldn't see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut right here above the fourth, right here, above there. And I kind of want that one to die. I realistically do want that one to be the new growth next year. That's all. That's all there is. So it's small, it's manageable, and within a few weeks to a month, it is very likely that it will put out some new growth here, and it will do just fine. If I find that it's suffering, perhaps I'll even bring it inside my home where it's consistently warm all the time, and then bring it back out into the greenhouse, if that's what it takes. But it's more than likely to just do fine here. So the reason that I didn't want to use that Ahi Fantasy plant as an example to put into a smaller pot is because it is its second year and the root system is so established. I imagine that they'd be thick and they would spread out quite a bit, and to put them into a tiny 1-gallon pot at this point is probably not the most ideal situation for it to live in. So I've decided to keep it that way, and in case it runs out of nutrition because it's been there for 2 seasons already, I'm just going to top it off with an inch of compost. That should be just fine. So there you have it. This is how you perennialize pepper plants. Not just one, but 2 of them because of that mistake I made earlier. And I have this to do with quite a few more peppers. I think I have to do this with another 20, 25 more varieties before I'm all winterized and just ready for the season. So it's really easy to do. I highly recommend doing it because your plants will be bigger and they will produce much more the following season if you take care of them and allow them to produce that second season or third or fourth. So thanks a lot for being with me today while I did this work to the peppers. It's a really lengthy task when you have 25 varieties to do, but it's totally worth it, and I'm really happy to have been able to share this with you. So again, I'm Richard Cannell from Small Island Gardener. See you next time. Bye.